Hi, my name is Eugene Stepanov. I'm a senior database solution architect with AWS. Here at AWS, I focus on SQL Server and Postgres. And today, we will talk about brand new feature that we launched on May 15th of this year, and that is RDS support for SQL Server reporting services. Now, reporting services, together with integration services and analysis services, have been such an important part of the SQL Server ecosystem that many workloads rely on those tools to deliver their BI solutions. Now, prior to this launch, you could still use those tools, but you had to deploy them separately on the separate EC2 instance. And obviously, that adds cost not only for the underlying EC2 instance, but also for the SQL Server license. And that was our feedback. We at AWS take our customer feedback very seriously. And as of May 15th, you can now host your reporting services solution on the RDS instance itself. So, agenda for today, first, we will take a look at some of these prerequisites. After that, we'll take a look at the step-by-step instructions. And after that, jump straight to the demo. And I'm going to be coming back to the instructions as we're going through the demo. And at the very end, we will take a look at some of the limitations that this support comes with. So, prerequisites. First, SSRS must be enabled in the option group. Those of you who already played with TDE or possibly native backups know that those features needs to be enabled in the option group first, and SSRS follows the same path. Now, the second one, SSRS is supported for both for standard and for enterprise, starting with that build number, 3223.3 or later. If you on any of the previous builds, you're not going to be able to deploy your SSRS solution. The third one, RDS instances, your RDS instance and the client that you use to open up the browser and interact with the SSRS portal, both has to be Active Directory joined. And I repeat, it has to be AWS managed Active Directory. You cannot join them to self-managed domain. And the last one, SSL needs to be enabled. All right, step by step. And again, I'm repeating myself here. I'm going to be coming back to this list as we go through the demo. First, we're going to launch domain join EC2 instance, and this is going to be our client machine. This is where we're going to be opening up the browser and interacting with the SSRS portal. Second, we will import SSL certificates to this client machine. Third one, we will create our option group, custom option group, where we're going to enable the SSRS. The step number 4, we're going to launch our domain join RDS instance. After that, we're going to be configuring access. And the last step, we're going to deploy our report, the data source, and we will see a live report. All right, let's jump straight to the demo. All right, I'm here on my portal, and before we do anything, let's explore. Let's see what I already have deployed here. So under EC2, I have 2 instances running. One of them is just a jump box, and jump box is nothing but our EC2 instance with nothing on it. It's just been deployed to the public subnet where I can have access to it. My second box is my development box, and here I have Visual Studio and SQL Server installed on it. SQL Server is already installed with the reporting services, and that's what I used to build my stuff. And well, actually, let's take a look at this. So for the purposes of this demo, I built this very simple report. Let me minimize that. Here's Visual Studio, and I built this very simple report against AdventureWorks DW 2017 sample database. And it is nothing but an inner join between dim product and fact inventory. And all it does, it shows this very simple pie chart, how my inventory is distributed. So if I click on the start, it's gonna build, it's gonna deploy, and if I click on it, it's gonna show me the live report, right? So this is the report that we will later deploy to our RDS instance. All right. All right. So let me minimize that. Let's go back to the portal and let's see what I have on RDS. And on RDS, I don't have anything. Um, I mean, I don't have any SQL Server engines deployed yet. We will do that later together. Now, let's take a look at the directory service. Under directory service, I already have deployed mycorp2.com, and this is Microsoft Managed AD, and it's of the standard size. Now, I also, on the S3, I have a bucket called AdventureWorks Backups, and this is the bucket where I keep my backups. So here you can see AdventureWorks DW 2017 backup, and that's the backup I'll use later to restore the AdventureWorks DW on the RDS instance. All right. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. And let's start with step one, and that is a launch of domain joined EC2 instance. All right. So we go to EC2. And launch instance. Now I'm gonna select only Windows EMIs. I'm gonna pick Windows Server 2019 base. And I'm gonna pick only general purpose. And let's pick M5. M5 4x large would be more than enough. Configure the instance. We're going to deploy it to the private subnet. Scroll down, and here on the domain join directory, click on that, and I have my corp2.com show up here. So I'm going to click on that. Now, as soon as you pick a domain directory, it's going to ask you for the IAM role that have permissions to be able to join this EC2 instance with the with the domain. So here I have already a role called EC2 domain join. And by the way, let's go there and let me show you how I build that role. So here I am on the roles. I have a role called EC2 domain join. So in order to be able to join an EC2 instance to the managed AD, you're going to have these two policies attached to this role. So Amazon SSM managed instance core and Amazon SSM directory service access. And by the way, I have collected all the important links here. So here on the seamlessly join a Windows EC2 instance, this is the page that tells you line by line how you can join your EC2 instance to the managed AD. All right. So again, this role already exists. There are two policies that have to be associated with this role. I'm not going to create it again. Let's just go to EC2 and let's create an EC2 instance. Launch instance. Again, Windows 2019 base, general purpose, and M5 4x large. I'm going to deploy it to private subnet, and my directory is mycorp2.com, and the role for this activity, for this action, would be EC2 domain join role. Add storage, I'm gonna go with, say, 100 gigabytes, and tags, configure security group. I am going to pick an existing group, which is my private SQL Server security group. Click next, review all the details, and launch. And I am going to pick my key pair and launch the instance. All right, that is going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to come back when it's done. All right, it's been about 3 minutes and now I see my brand new box is running and it's available now. So let's add a tag, and what I'm gonna say here is SSRS client machine. All right. Let's grab private IP. Give me 1 second. I will resize the window. Administrator. All right. And this is our brand new EC2 instance. All right, let's see. Let's open up the server manager. Let's click on local. And here you can see it's mycorp2.com. It is no longer a standalone EC2 instance. This EC2 instance now belongs to mycorp2.com domain. All right, so let me turn off IE Enhanced Security Configuration. And now, let me go back to my PowerPoint. Essentially, we completed step number 1. We launched domain join EC2 instance, and now we are ready to import our SSL certificates. Now, again, in the page called links, I've collected all the important docs, and here, using SSL with Microsoft SQL Server DB instance, this link gives you line by line directions on to import those certificates. So if you find that this demo is not enough, please follow that link, and it's gonna give you all the details you need. All right. So go back. So that link will take you to this page, and on this page, it says here that if your application is Microsoft Windows and requires a PKCS7 file, you can download this bundle at this link. So I'm going to copy the link, and I'm going to go to now my brand new um, instance. Let me launch Internet Explorer. And download that certificate bundle. Let me put it on the desktop. All right, the bundle has been downloaded. And now let me open up MMC. Here on the file, you go add remove snap-in, add certificates, computer account, local computer, finish. Okay. On the certificates, under trusted root certification authorities, let's go ahead and under all tasks, let's import the file that we just downloaded. Desktop, there's nothing because the extension on that bundle file is not standard. So let's open up all files. Here's our certificate bundle. And let's click next and finish. Okay, the import was successful. You can now click OK, and you can see a whole bunch of Amazon RDS certificates showing up here on the trusted root. All right, we just successfully import certificates. So one more step, since we're going to be dealing with SQL Server, it will be helpful if we had SSMS installed on it. Download SSMS. Here's the latest version, and let's run. All right, that's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause, and I will come back as soon as this installation is over. All right, it's been about 2-3 minutes, and seems like SSMS has been successfully installed on this client machine now. And if we look here, and if we type SSMS, you can see SQL Server Management Studio. All right, so we're done with the client machine. So let's go back to the instructions. Again, we just completed step 1 and step 2. So let's go ahead and let's reboot our SSRS client machine. Boot. All right, this is being rebooted now. Let's go ahead and let's start working on our RDS instance. That would be step number 3 and number 4. As I mentioned before, in order to use features like native backup, transparent data encryption, SSRS, SSIS, or SSAS, all these features have to be enabled through the options group first. So let's go to options group, and as you can see, all I have here is default options group. None of the default options group have those features enabled. So let's go ahead and let's create a group. And I'm gonna say SSRS enabled. I'm gonna pick Enterprise Edition, and I'm gonna go with the latest major version. All right, so I just created SSRS enabled, and let's go ahead and let's add an option. All right, I'm gonna pick SQL Server Reporting Services. I'm gonna change the port. I'm gonna go with 10,000 so I can remember it. I'm gonna give it 25 to 20. Let's do 25% of memory. And I am going to deploy it to my private SQL Server security group. And add immediately. All right, I just added the SSRS to this option group. And let me actually, since we're going to be restoring the native AdventureWorks database, let's add one more option. Let's add a backup restore. You need to pick a role that has access to the S3 bucket. So I have S3 backup restore IAM role. And I'm going to add it immediately. All right. So now I have my options group enabled, created, and both SSRS as and native backup enabled. So let's go ahead and let's now create our RDS instance. We're going to go with SQL Server, Enterprise Edition. We're going to pick the latest one. I'm going to go with dev test template. Database 3 is fine. I'm going to give it master username and password. I'm going to leave the default database instance size. I'll go with 100 gigabytes. Disable storage auto scaling. Availability and durability, very important feature, but it's not the point. So I'm gonna leave as as standalone, single AZ. Here, I'm going to deploy it to the default VPC, but I am going to deploy it to my private subnet group, and I suggest you do the same. Under security groups, I am going to choose my private SQL Server security group and delete default. I'll leave availability zone and database port to its defaults. And here we're coming up on the Microsoft SQL Server Windows authentication. This is where we join our RDS instance to our managed AWS managed AD mycorp2.com. We click choose. And under additional configuration, we leave our default parameter group, but under options group, we pick our SSRS enabled. And I'm going to leave everything else to its defaults. Create database. All right, that's going to take a minute. I am going to pause and I'm going to come back when it's over. All right. It's been about 15-20 minutes, and it seems like our database 3 has been successfully created and now is available. Let's click on that. Under connectivity and security, at the bottom, you can see here that the directory is now mycorp2.com, and the directory status is joined, which means that it was the control plane was able to successfully join it to our domain. All right. So let's go ahead and let's jump back to our instructions. So here we just completed step number 4, which was the launch of domain join RDS instance. And now we're about to configure access, and after that, we'll deploy our report and the data source. All right, let's jump back to the console, and let's go to our EC2 instance. So if you remember, we just deployed the SSRS client EC2 instance. We installed SSMS on it, and we imported the SSL certificates. So and we rebooted that machine. So let's go ahead and let's connect to this private IP. All right, here's our instance. And again, we have SSMS and we have imported the SSL certificates. So let's kick off. SSMS. Let's go to the portal and let's grab the endpoint for the RDS instance. That's the endpoint. All right. So here I'm going to put the endpoint, and it is true that we currently connected to this EC2 instance as the domain administrator, but SQL Server still doesn't have any idea about this account. So why don't we switch to SQL Server authentication and log in to this RDS instance as the master user, as the RDS master user. All right, let's open it up. You can see an empty database instance. Again, you see RDS admin. RDS admin is a part of our control plane and it's always there. You, the customer, have no control or visibility into that database. Also, since we enabled SSRS, it added two more databases. It added RDS admin underscore report server and underscore report server tempdb. All right. So now let's go ahead and let's create a SQL login for that Windows account. I have this command saved up here. And essentially, again, we're going to be creating a SQL Server login for mycorp2/admin Windows account. All right, that's been successful. And now, just to test it, we can try to use that account and we can try to use Windows authentication. Let's connect. And we can connect to our RDS instance. Perfect. All right. So initially, I showed you the report, and that report was built against AdventureWorks DW 2017 database. And I also showed you the backup that I have in my S3 bucket. So why don't we go ahead and restore that backup? So we have AdventureWorks DW 2017 running on our RDS instance. So here's the command, and let's go ahead and let's execute that. Now, it's important to remember that RDS restore database command is asynchronous command, so it returns the control as soon as you kick it off. So it's important to check the status. For this, I have another command. Let's copy that and let's execute it. The database name AdventureWorks and the task ID we can copy from the previous command. Task ID is 1. Let's execute that, and the life cycle is success, which means we now have a database AdventureWorks DW running on our RDS instance. Perfect. Now, in order for us to execute the report, as I said before, that report is nothing but an inner join between dim product and fact inventory, fact product inventory. So let's run this. Wrong database. That makes sense. All right, so it does return result sets. And let's go back to the PowerPoint. And essentially, we've completed steps 1 through 5. And now we're looking at the deployment of our report and the data source. Let's go back. Let's go back to our portal. And let's grab again the endpoint. So the way we connect to our portal is through the browser. HTTPS column 10,000, that's the port. Report server. All right, and now it's trying to authenticate. We're going to use domain account. Oh, that makes sense. It's already my corp too. All right, and here is what we've got. The permissions granted to user mycorp2/admin are insufficient to perform this operation. And the reason why we get this error, because, well, we forgot to execute this command. Well, I skipped it intentionally because right now the mycorp2/admin has no rights to SSRS portal. So let's execute this command. All right, lifecycle is created. And let's go ahead and let's try to refresh our browser again. All right, and now we see a report server. So why don't we go to reports? Here you go. Here's our portal, and let's go ahead and let's start deploying. So we need to, in order to see the report, we need to deploy data source first, and after that we can deploy actual RDL file. I'm gonna call it data source 1 because that's what I call it in the report. And it's gonna be Microsoft SQL Server. And for connection string, it's gonna be a local account. I have it here. It's going to be a local instance, and the initial catalog will be AdventureWorks DW 2017. And for credentials, we're going to leave as user view in the report. And let's test the connection. Aha, couldn't connect. It seems like, let's take a look at the detail. It seems like mycorp2/admin has no rights for the AdventureWorks DW 2017. So let's go ahead to our SSMS. Let's go security, logins. This is mycorp2/admin. And let's give a database owner to mycorp2/admin. All right, let's go back. And let's try to test again. Connected successfully. Create. All right, so we just created data source 1, and now we need to deploy the actual RDL file. All right, let's go to our development box. So here's the development box with Visual Studio installed. This is where I developed my report, right? The RDL stands for Report Definition Language, is nothing but an XML file. It's right here. You can grab it off of your solution project folder. So I'm gonna grab that and let me place this file on the desktop of our SSRS client machine. So now this RDL file is local to the machine where I open the portal. Let's click upload, report 1 RDL. Let's upload. The report been uploaded, and let's execute. And now you see a live report, our live product inventory report running on our RDS instance. And that brings us to the end of this demo. But before we close, there's one more topic I would like to touch on, and that's the list of limitations of our support. Well, first of all, importing and restoring report server databases on RDS is not supported at this moment. The second limitation is that default HTTPS port for 43 is not allowed. Um, in my on my demo, I used 10,000, but you can see a range of allowed values there on PowerPoint. The next one, subscriptions. Subscriptions are currently not supported on RDS. And also, reporting services configuration manager is not supported on RDS. The last four bullet items are limitations related to security and the privileges that's available on RDS. So you can read it yourself. With that, I hope that was beneficial. I hope now you realize how easy it is to deploy your SSRS solution on RDS. And with that, I would like to thank every single one of you for spending time and watching this video. And I would like to wish all of you happy computing from all of us at AWS. Thank you very much.